Hello, this is Brian Foster on Kardec Radio, presenting the program Spiritism and the Spirit World Around Us. Hello, tonight, November 12th, another Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, and all the time zones in between and around the world. Please join us on this every Sunday night broadcast where we talk about different aspects of Spiritism. And I think this week's call, which should be very interesting for you. It's a person called B to protect his identity. His NDE is actually more of an out-of-body experience, and he went all around the universe. And in fact, I got his vision from the NDERF.org website. But then when I started writing about it, he actually contacted me through email. So I have other information that he hasn't given to other people. And this whole, the whole world and universe about people's near-death experiences has just exploded with the internet. And remember, Chico Xavier had said at one point in time that really the internet would be one of the main vehicles of spreading Spiritism throughout the planet Earth. And what's happened is, before, when you had near-death experiences, people said, oh, it was Uncle Bob, he did this. You never heard of anybody else. So you just figured that Uncle Bob, had this strange experience. But now you have more and more people, all races, cultures, languages, and they all come out with similar things, right? There's these different, there's varied experiences. Some people go lower, some people go higher. But a lot of it, there's themes, right? And what my contention is, Spiritism tells us why people have that time out. To me, an NDE, a near-death experience, is like you're in middle school or high school, and the principal or vice principal says, I want to talk to you for a while. We need to talk. You go, you learn things you need to learn, and you put back in a class. And that's really, I believe, is the central theme of an NDE, is to take you out, tell you, okay, this is your progress report so far. This is unusual. We don't usually do this to students. We're taking you out of class for a minute. We're going to tell you what's going on. This is where you need to improve. Now, there's other types of variations. But I think overall, that you'll see is really the main impetus of why the spirit world does allow certain people to have these visions and these experiences. Now, I've written about near-death experiences. I've written on my first book is What Really Happens During Near-Death Experiences, according to Spiritism, 12 NDEs explained and explored. And the one I'm going through now, B's NDE Trip Around the Universe, is this one. The Spirit World Talks to Us, 12 accounts from near-death and other experiences. I think you would find both those fascinating. In fact, I had one woman write me saying that I learned more about the Spirit World Talks to Us from almost all the other books I have, because I really talk about what people experience in their NDEs and why they're experiencing, and then how the spirit world sets this up, what's all behind it. And this is why I think looking and reading about near-death experiences helps you actually increase your foundation, your faith, and your belief in the spirit world and in the doctrine of Spiritism. Because the doctrine of Spiritism, everything I've seen in NDEs, it supplements and complements and it strengthens the doctrine of Spiritism of what it's told us through the writings of Allan Kardec, who first codified Spiritism in the 1850s. And of course, in his seminal book, the first book, the Spirits book, which he codified his answers from different spirits throughout different mediums throughout Europe. And that is a wonderful book, the Spirits book by Allan Kardec. You can find it on PDF. You can also find it on my website, nwspiritism.com, nwspiritism.com, and you'll see on the top right, there's a picture of Allan Kardec. Click on it. You'll go to the EDI CEI bookstore, and you can find his book. You can also find it in PDF, as I said before, all of his books on PDF. And you can also find it on Amazon.com. So I would recommend anyone who is interested about learning why you're on Earth. To me, the thing about Spiritism, it just answered all the questions I had. Why do good things happen to bad people who don't deserve it, and why do bad things happen to good people who don't deserve that either, right? And it just tells us everything. Why do we think there's chaos in the world? Well, there's actually not. It's all planned. It's planned for a good reason. We may not like it, but it's planned for good reason. So let's get right into it. This is B. He's actually talked, as I said before. I did this article, then he actually wrote me, and we wrote each other back and forth for a while. And the funny thing too, I just want to say before I get into it, is that I had another person just recently write me and say, I read your account and your interpretation, I should say, of a near-death experience. And this is what happened to me. And now I finally understand everything behind the scenes, why I was told what I was told. He goes, but when I tell my friends, they look at me like I'm just stupid. I'm crazy. And I've given up on trying to talk to them about it. But it totally explains many things that we see as unexplainable phenomena, right? Or miracles, right? Where Spiritism says there's no such thing as miracles. It's all explainable. We just don't understand it. So let's talk about B. So B, and I'll just call him B to protect its identity. So he was actually praying for guidance. He did not have a near-death experience. It was more of a near-death experience, more of a vision. He had been praying for guidance. He had a date to be baptized, and he wanted to make sure he was making the correct decision. And he went to sleep, and he was then awoken by an angel next to his bed. This is what he wrote. The angel told me it was my guardian angel. And the reason it had come to me is because my prayers had been answered for asking for guidance about my adult baptism that I was going to go through the next weekend. My guardian angel was the most awesome sight to me with its wings spread out. So, B had asked for guidance and now it would be presented to him. And in reading his account, he never said he had a near-death experience. No medical emergency or brush with death that could have triggered the vision he had that night. Many say he could have made all of this up. But when you examine what he was told, the details of the spirit universe, his relation to the spirit world, and many other salient points, they all correspond to what has been revealed by Spiritist literature, whether by Allan Kardec, the codifier of Spiritism, I said before, or by Francisco. Many people call him Chico Xavier. So when you hear the name Chico Xavier, it's a nickname in Brazil. If anybody called Francisco, same thing I think in a lot of Latin American countries. Chico Xavier psychographed more than 450 books, actually almost 500 now, written under the direction of different spirits, and all detailing more information that we on earth need to know in order to live our lives as God and Jesus Christ intends us to. So not once during his whole account does he mention the doctrine of Spiritism, nor hint that he had any knowledge of it. But the doctrine is there in every paragraph that he writes. And it starts with his paraspirit hovering over his bed. This is kind of one of the tests that I see when people talk about near-death experiences, and I see how they explain it. So let me tell you what he said. He goes, I realized that I was in a corner of my room, looking slightly down across the bottom end of my bed. I could hear a voice coming from behind me, but I could not see anyone around, and remembering feeling a bit taken aback by the voice because I could not see who or where it was coming from. The voice told me that I was safe and in good company. I had a very strong, soothing, magnetic feeling of love and compassion come over me. A bright orb-shaped spirit came from behind me on my right side and then moved in front of me. The spirit light changed its shape and appeared before me, a genderless angel. I looked to my right, and as I was at the foot of my bed to see my body in bed, sleeping and still breathing as normal. I was a little daunted by that. I really took notice that I was floating about 1.5 meters off the ground. I noticed that the angel was talking to me without using its mouth to speak. At this point, I knew we were conversing telepathically through consciousness. So he saw his body. His physical self never woke, only his spirit. He also, he did notice there's a silvery cord attaching his spirit to the body. Keep in mind, as B roams that spirit universe, the cord will stretch for what we think is an infinite length. Now, the other thing is I see when I hear people talk about near-death experiences, I always say, did they mention the silvery cord? Because that's, we are the spirit, the paraspirit, and the physical body. And the paraspirit connects the spirit to the physical body. It covers the physical body like an invisible wetsuit, connects to everything. And there's a silvery cord that's stretched to wherever you want. The interesting part is that, and you hear other people talk about when they have experience, they talk, oh, I saw the silvery cord. So you know that this was something that's most probably real. In fact, I remember when I was watching, I forgot the name of the movie, but Shirley MacLaine, about her experiences. And she goes, and she was in this, I think more of a hot springs. And she all of a sudden started rising up, and behind her, she saw this silvery cord. I said, well, then I think she had a real experience. I mean, it's amazing. Before I was a spiritist, I would hear Shirley MacLaine talk about, and I said, she's crazy. She doesn't know what she's doing, but she's right. It's, it's humbling when she and other people, and then you talk, even like you see these things about primitive tribes, about communicating in the spirit world. It's us in this technological consumer, society, that we're the primitive ones because we're just wholly materialistic and we're not enough spirituality mixed in. Our goal by the spirit world is to get the pendulum to swing back and have a mixture of spirituality and materialism. Hopefully we will get there. So anyway, that's something, when people talk about that, you should pay attention. So the paraspirit, of course, then it has also a built-in timer. And we receive our data from the spirit through that little cord, right? And that cord is, let's say, an internet connection, right? And that cord can only handle so much data. That's why we don't have memories of past lives. When we dream, we don't remember everything. Because what Spiritism says, when we dream, we go wander again back in the spirit world. But our recollections are hazy. And that's because there's only so much data can go through that pipe and be in our physical brain. Because our physical brain, we are born and raised in this 3D world, right? Spirit realm, time and space, it's a totally different concept. There's no concept of time, right? And space is completely different. I'll get that in another program. But so there's concepts we can understand. And the paraspirit also has a built-in timer. It is made to detach when our blueprint, our plan for our life is ended, right? It's stopped, right? You're gonna, die at age 64 and a half, and then the paraspirit will detach at at the right time. That's why people who commit suicide, they're locked into the lower zone, the umbral, as they say in Brazil, in Portuguese, until that time in the paraspirit actually was planned to detach. It's never a good idea. So let's get back to B's NDE. It's fascinating. So then he states his angel. Oh, the other thing I want to say is angel said he had wings and he's genderless. And of course, what that tells us again. Now you notice in NDEs, you'll see some people say that high angels, they'll see this white, that looks like wings, and they can't tell what sex it is. They can barely tell the facial structures. But then if they see their Aunt Molly or someone like that, they just look normal to them. So why is that? Well, it's a very good reason. Higher spirits reflect more of the light in love that they have in themselves. And the higher the spirit, the more they reflect. And as they reflect, your eyes, here, for us who are, immature spiritually compared to them, it's too bright and it's fuzzy and we can barely make them out. And to us, and there's these light beams that are reflecting back off of them into us. We think it's wings or whatever. We can't really tell. If you were a spirit on the same level as that high spirit, if B was the same level as his guardian spirit, the guardian spirit would look absolutely normal to him. So next he says his angels took him to the upper regions of hell. Now, why is that? And of course, we don't call it hell in Spiritism. We call it more like dark abyss, right? And it was to demonstrate the contrast between the consequences of a life lived in the pursuit of attempting to improve yourself by learning to love others, be fraternal and honest with all, as opposed to taking what you can for your own selfish reasons, right? So He doesn't describe hell in his accounts. Spiritism tells us what hell is, the area around the earth, just below the surface, I should say the dark abyss, is the higher regions, and the lower one travels, the worse the conditions are. Now, purgatory, or the dark abyss, is not a sentence for eternity, but it's one where people who have lived a dishonorable life, right, or wholly materialistic life, journey to after death. It's a place where a person lives amongst those similar to him or herself. The lower one travels, the worse it is. The more, and then you go to what level that is the law of affinity. You go where like meets like, right? You go to people like you. So another one of the mundane secrets of Spiritism, and you pass on. You are who you are. Don't worry about, oh, what happens if I die, or what happens? I always thought, what happens if I get shot in the head? Who am I? I still who I am, or I have a terrible accident and and I can't know anything for a while. You're still fine. Your spirit mind has everything in it. This is just our physical brain. So this is what I want to say. Escaping purgatory is easy. You just have to flee the region. You have to treat others as you would have treated others in your earthly life, or stop treating others as you treat other earthly life. Transform your attitude. Get to the golden rule, right? And as you transform your attitude from hate and anger to love and compassion, and once higher spirits detect this, your willingness and desire to change, you will be assisted and guided out of there. So, then from the depth of earth, B is taken to a higher atmosphere of earth. And the angel tells B that the great revelation that concerns all of us. This is what he says. Once we are at the very upper atmosphere of the earth, the angel said to me, the reasons humans come to earth is to evolve their spirit. The angel told me it's all a learning experience. Exactly what is told over and over and over again in Spiritism. We're here not by some random chance, right? Not because, our parents all of a sudden decided to make love one day randomly. No, it's all planned out. And it's amazing. It's all predetermined. That's another couple programs. But it's all a learning experience. We are here to reform our character. We are on a great journey, and it's all the learning experience. This, in a nutshell, is the reason we suffer through life with good and bad times. The reason why there's so much what we perceive as evil in the world. The reason why bad things happen to good people. The reason for injustice, and the reason for poverty and inequality, corruption, and prejudice. Imagine if you were forced to live in a school with mostly uncontrollable 7th and 8th graders, right? Because, that's one heck of an age. We all survived it, at least the ones that are listening to this program. And then you look at it, and there's no staff or teachers present, right? It would degrade into a nightmare in a blink of an eye. Actually, you don't have to imagine it, because this is where you're living. This is why the world's so chaos. The Lord of the Flies. That's the whole reason on earth. You put all these immature kids together with no direction, and it's chaos. Now, there is direction, there's guidance, they help us a lot. We are directed. But it's not like they're right there in physical form and whacking us on the head or the hands, right, when we do something wrong. It's more subtly guided than that. So as we look upon that chaotic school full of unruly children, this is how the spirit world looks upon us. Through our own behavior, we have made the earth what it is. But all is not lost, for we are not abandoned, left to fend for ourselves. Invisible to us, there are an army of spirits watching and guiding our every move, examining how we are proceeding in our custom-tailored lesson plans. We all have our own custom-tailored blueprint. The Supreme Intelligence fully realizes we are not able to absorb the lesson of the light in just one life. To internalize the need for love and compassion for all takes many, many lives. Hence, after each life, our grades are compiled and deeds taken into account to create the plan for the next life, where we'll have to live on the other side of whatever ignoble act we committed, so we may comprehend the true pain we caused. Karma is real. So then B tells us he saw lower spirits. When he's up there in the atmosphere, he saw lower spirits around. And an angel told him they are unable to rise above a certain level beyond earth. The area between the crust and the earth in the lower level of heaven is called the lower zone. So again, B is seeing exactly what has been told us in the books by Spiritist mediums. This is what he said. Just on the outside of our atmosphere, I noticed some evil or bad spirits looking down on earth. The angel told me that these evil spirits cannot harm me because of my love for the Lord. I am protected. I remember one of the evil spirits looking over at us, but I knew it was too afraid to approach. The angel said that this is the furthest the evil spirits can come out from earth because they were bound there. So, what's the lower zone? Henri Louis, who woke up after his death. This is all in the, you'll see this book in the book No Solar, great book, by the way, and it's also a movie. Who woke up there right after his death on the operating room, describes one small part of it. This is what Henri Louis, who was a spirit that that dictated his story to Francisco Chico Xavier. This is what Henri Louis said. Actually, I felt like a prisoner trapped behind dark bars of horror. With my hair on end, my heart pounding and scared stiff, I often cried out like a madman. I begged for mercy and clamored against the painful despondency that had taken hold of my spirit. But when the loud cries didn't fall on an implacable silence, they were answered by lamenting voices even more pitiful than my own. At other times, sinister laughter rent the prevailing silence. I thought that some unknown companion out there was a prisoner of insanity. Diabolical forms, ghastly faces, and animal-like countenance appeared from time to time, increasing my panic. So, again, Spiritism says what they have found. B, who had no idea of Spiritism, was thinking about becoming baptized in another religion, saw the same thing that's been told to us by Spiritist literature. This is why, if you really want to understand, start exploring Spiritist literature. Start with the spirit books. You can also start with my books. The other one is you can, if you're interested in NDEs, you can read this book. I talk a lot about Spiritism as I'm talking about in this article. The other thing you can do is go to my website, and on the right hand, I have all my books, and I actually have a book called Spiritism 101, The Third Revelation. You can get it 99 cents on Kindle. You can go to my Facebook site, Spiritism, the Spirit World Around Us, and in the file section, I have it in PDF form. You can download it for free. And I have other books there that will talk about reincarnation, all about the organization Heaven and Hell. And my latest book, Heaven and Below, is all about the revelations given to the Reverend G. Val Owen about the higher levels of heaven and the lower levels. And it's all complementary and additive to what we've learned from the other books by Spiritist mediums. So the lower zone does not actually sound like a very attractive place, does it? And again, we see the same message in Memoirs of a Suicide by Yvonne Pierre, another Spiritist medium. So again, I don't want to belabor it, but this is seen over and over. What happens in people's NDEs are absolutely seconded and backed up by the Spiritist doctrine. I think this is an important thing for everybody to know. If you want to understand your life, read about Spiritism. It will explain a lot. So, now the next what happened is, as B's angel took him higher and higher beyond the atmosphere of Earth and into the solar system, he could detect the waves of emotional feelings that came from planets he passed. That's what he said. While we were out in our solar system, I could feel musical notes coming from all the planets as they spun on their axis. Earth gave off a very beautiful high-pitched vibration, and I could feel Saturn right through the solar system. Saturn gave off the strongest note. It was pulsing with a low bass vibration that felt so smoothing. Again, okay, so the vibration emanating from each planet is a result of the type of life and the level of life that resides there. The first question that would come in anyone's rational mind is, how can there be life throughout the solar system? We have satellites explore every planet and many moons from the sun to Pluto, and no sign of intelligent life has presented itself. Well, you have to look at our universe. We are just one of the dimensions, right? Even string theory says that there's 11 dimensions. We're just one of them. So these other planets there's life there in other dimensions. B was taken out of our little very dimension where you can't see much, right? We only see about 1/8 of the world around us, according to Spiritist literature. He could see life everywhere. And Spiritism says Saturn is a very advanced planet. We are on a planet of atonement. Saturn is a higher planet. So that's why these other planets exist on a new plane, a different dimension that we can't detect. In the same manner, different physical life colonizes other planets in other dimensions. Neither our telescope nor electronic exploration devices have the capacity right now to peer behind our dimensions. And in the book, the Spiritist Review of 1858, which is a compilation of the Spiritist magazines by Allan Kardec, we are told of the relative level of life on Saturn. Because Mercury and Earth come after Saturn. The numerical superiority of the good spirits gives them predominance over the inferior spirits, resulting in a more perfect social order, less selfish relationships, and therefore happier living conditions. Again, what he saw was backed up. And to understand the level of planets, I really recommend you go read the Gospel According to Spiritism. I also talk about this in Explore Your Destiny, because it tells, I tell you all the different levels of planets. Again, so explore your destiny, since your life path is mostly predetermined. But the levels of the world right now is the primitive world. The Earth was a primitive world before we are right now. And that's where it's dog eat dog, right? You eat, you fight, and you die. You live probably short, miserable lives. But you're just becoming an intelligent spirit. A world of trial and expiation, a world of atonement, also called. You are living on that now. This is why we see so much injustice, inequality in the world, because that type of world, the world we're on now, is you are here, as the angel told B, it's a learning experience. You're here to improve your character. You're here to get rid of all the bad stuff, all the primitive hate, envy, jealousy, and replace it with higher ideals. Not something you can go through one life. I mean, I know I couldn't, right? I mean, maybe there's this rare spirit that could, but I know that's not me. I could not become a better person, really a good, pure spirit that's full of love for everything and everybody. I'm not even there yet. I have to try every day, is how to get there, right? So that's why we live through many lives. So reincarnation is real. Next is the regenerative world. Now, the regenerative world, the good news out there, the regenerative world is where we are heading. Many spiritists, and actually you read about other spiritual sites, I'll say, yeah, we're in this vibrational thing where something is happening. And yes, Spiritism tells us the same thing. We are at that first stage of starting to that phase, that journey to go to a regenerative planet. Now, not all of us will be there, right? Because those spirits who do not want to put love and charity and honesty in their hearts will be taken to another planet. That's why I like the apocalypse. It's really the apocalypse where the spirits are divided. It won't happen here on Earth. It will happen in the spirit plane. Those people will not reincarnate on Earth. They will go to other planets. But the regenerative world, there's still a little bit of evil, but there's much reduced, and good outweighs the evil. And consequently, there's no motive for hatred or discord. Then after regenerative world, there's the happy world, where good outweighs evil. In a happy world, we still retain our human form, although the senses are more acute. And then there's the heavenly or divine world, which is up from the happy world, where good reigns completely. All inhabitants are purified spirits. There is no evil. So hence, Saturn, where you heard these vibrations, is a level above the Earth, had a more pleasant vibration. In planets where there are a majority of mature spirits who live selfishly and strive to be kind and considerate to all, contain people who are happier and more content. One day, as the human race grows and advances, the Earth too will become a better place to live. This is our future. We all have to help. We all have to help society, help each other, help ourselves to attain that. The whole Earth has to attain a certain vibrational level. Then everything will transform. So what happens next to B? Well, after B was taken on a tour of the spectacular formations of our galaxy, he was taken to a magnificent building. He describes it thusly. This is what he said. From there, the angel took me to what I call the grand building, or grand temple. I'm not sure of the name, but it was brilliant white, like a palace. The angel took me inside this building, which was amazing to see from the front. It had a large, beautiful garden in the front with beautiful pond and lakes. The front veranda of the building was enormous. It had many massive white columns out the front of it. Once I was inside the building, I noticed that the building was alive with reactive light energy. All matter was alive, reactive light energy there. He had that in all caps. I cannot put into words how beautiful it was inside. I looked up at the ceiling in one of the large rooms and noticed that the ceiling was clear like glass. You could see all the stars in the universe above. Talk about magic. I was in absolute awe of the place. Okay, this is what he saw. Well, again, this has been backed up by books written by Spiritist mediums. In the compilation of 4 books, The Life Beyond the Veil, book 1, The Lowlands of Heaven, which I've just come out with my book, November 15th. It comes out, and the other 2 books come out November 17th. All about the Reverend Z. Vowin, all the different communications he had from different spirits, or very high spirits. And actually, they revealed much more about the higher levels, the processes, the education, the educational process of heaven than I've seen in other Spiritist material. And so the first spirit that came to talk to the Reverend G. Vowin, he was the Anglican Church of England vicar, who in the early 1900s, who, of course, after he wrote all about his communications, the Church of England kicked him out. But he was then helped financially by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, which is the person who wrote Sherlock Holmes. Arthur Conan Doyle was a spiritualist. He wasn't a spiritist, but he was a spiritualist. A lot of things, they intersect. Spiritism is much more of a doctrine, and there's much more communication, and it will keep coming. So Val Owen asked his mother to describe where she lived and worked while in the spirit world. This is what she told him. It is beautiful, appointed within and without. Within our bath and the music room and apparatus to aid us in registering our work is a very large place. I call it a house, but it's really a series of houses. Each house allocated a certain class of work and progressive as a series. We pass from one to another as we learn all we can from any particular house. So again, this is a beautiful house, and you'll see about other things, other descriptions of beautiful palaces, of walls around city where the stones are like liquid light, and the lights changes all the time, where there's buildings where you can see the sky, right? And it's, like they say, it's clear as glass. And the sides of the walls, they respond to your emotions and feelings. Everything he said is backed up by what has been written in Spiritist literature. So all this is revealed by the doctrine of Spiritism brought to us by Allan Kardec in the 1850s. And when we leave this life, it's not for an eternity of idleness. We continue to work, otherwise our boredom really would be hell, right? You sit there in those clouds, or you're sitting at the beach for eternity. I mean, to me, I go to the beach, I can sit in the change lounge for maybe half hour, and then I have to do something. Of course, I'm probably the opposite of this of the spectrum. Other people are more patient. So also, Vowin's mother talks about an apparatus to help in their work. According to Spiritist writings by Francisco Chico Xavier, the first level of heaven in the spirit world is about 50 to 100 years in advance. So I think, this is back in 1910, she was probably talking about some sort of like a computer terminal-like device. She didn't use the word typewriter, and they had typewriters back in the early 1900s, that's for sure. So it shows you, where these things are in advance. In fact, in 1944 in No Solar, they talk about personal communication device, which is a cell phone. So you can see everything we do is a shadow, is a mirror shadow, maybe hazy, not as perfect, of the spirit world. So then Vowin's mother writes about the outside. He goes, the grounds are very extensive and all have a kind of relation to the building, a kind of responsiveness. Again, this is exactly what B said. For instance, the trees are true trees and grow much as trees do on earth, but they have a kind of responsiveness to the buildings, and different kinds of trees respond more to one house than to others, and help the effect and work for which that particular house was raised. So it was a grouping of trees and groves and streams and falls, which are found in different parts of the ground. All these things have been thought out with marvelous wisdom, and the effect produced is very beautiful. So again, the beauty of the grounds and the ability of the foliage to glow is recorded in much of Spiritist literature. Everything in the celestial levels of the spirit realm is a mirror of earth, but more perfect, more complete, more in tune with the harmony and vibrations around it. The next, Vowin's mother tells us the power of spirits, for we are told numerous times That while live on earth, we must learn to control our emotions and attempt to live in a balance between spirituality and materialism. We must strive to maintain our love for all. And the reason for this emphasis on inner thoughts is the power of the will in the spirit world. So read her explanation, listen to her explanation of how houses are built. This is what she says. This also tells you how the Grand Palace was built, what B saw. The atmosphere is also naturally affected by vegetation and by buildings. For, let me repeat, the houses have not been raised merely mechanically, right, hammer and nails, but are outcomes, growth, if you will, of the action of the will of those high in rank in these realms, and so of very powerful creative wills. So, the High Spirit told B, you're on this earth to learn, right? Now, what he didn't say is, why are you on this earth to learn? Fiaowen's mother told him, you're on this earth to learn, to reform your character, reform your attitude, to be calm in all circumstances, so you too can use your mind to create. You will have God-like powers, but they're not going to let you use it until you can control yourself. That's why. So hence, these houses and palaces aren't created by raw materials coupled with the label of workers, that a house or grand temple is constructed here on earth, but with the mind of a spirit or a group of spirits who gathers by force of their resolve, using divine laws to accumulate material from the ether of the universe, called universal fluid, to form the edifices. Owen's mother also goes on to recount how the color of their clothes is governed by the combination of the surrounding atmosphere and each individual's spiritual quality. Therefore, as people walk around the gardens, the garments can change color. And the main theme is the spirit world is full of life, from flora to fauna, and all in astonishing harmony, achieving a type of perfection that we can only dream of while encased in our physical bodies on earth. So then, I'll continue with B. So similar to many other near-death experiences, relatives who have passed over in the spirit world are present to greet those who have made the transition. This is what B said. The angel took me into a large room, and as I entered the room, there were a lot of people waiting for me. I was reunited with past family ancestors and friends that had passed over. The feeling I got from everyone was so overwhelming with love that projected them into my soul and vice versa. They could feel all of my emotions at the same time as well. My great-grandparents from my mom's side introduced themselves to me, as well as my grandfather, who died with my mom, was only 9 years of age. I noticed that most of the spirits were in form of light sphere shapes. Although we could not see each other's faces, we knew who each other was. And that's, of course, if he was at the same level, he could see them. I remember one male person who wanted to talk to me, who was at the back of the room. As soon as I thought and looked at him, we came to each other instantaneously. This person, I'm not ready to say who he is, but he was a family member to me in a past lifetime. I'm sure that I've come across him again here on earth. The whole time I was in that room with my family and friends, the feeling of love and joy was so overwhelming that there are no words to describe it. Being on earth feels so much heavier and clunky in our bodies. I know when we are released and take that love energy with us, the energy is allowed to spread out and expand. So, this is why the supreme intelligence, right? God, the spirituality, whatever you want to call it, has created a universe based on love. We are so lucky. We should give thanks to God all the time. And that's, so when one of us returns, our intimate loved ones are notified of our presence, and they can gather in the spirit world. There's no speed of light, speed limit. It's the speed of thought. And what I did write about this is I said that, okay, that one person that B talked to, and they were like attracted instantly, something will, he will encounter that person. And I wrote that in my article. And so then he what I said is he knows him. He feels an instant affinity. This is because this is what I wrote. B's instincts tells him he has had a previous experience with this person before, and they've been positive. He feels in his heart this person is close to him, and they share the same points of view. So all of these, so What happened later is that this person who I wrote about emailed me and said, "You're absolutely right." He goes, and I talked to that person and I heard his voice. And then the funny thing happened is my son was born, and I didn't have any clue what it was. And then when he reached puberty and his voice changed, I recognized the voice. That was him. That was my son, a spirit before he was born, because he had this, before, and then when his son's voice changed, he knew who that was. Isn't that amazing? The other thing is that when he's told his pastor in the church to be baptized, his pastor didn't want. He also told me this in the email exchange. Pastor didn't want to hear any of it. Didn't believe a word of it. This is where religions will have to, in the future, understand the doctrine of Spiritism, because we do talk to the spirit. The spirit world interacts with us all the time. But another thing you might want to say is, so when B returns to the spirit world and he is spiritually ready, he will gradually. Now he said he couldn't remember everything, and these memories came back only as they were triggered, right? Just kind of like my wife's NDE, her memories would come back when they're triggered. And so remembering your past life when you transition to the spirit realm may not be possible until your mind is free of guilt. So even if when you go back to the spirit realm and you want to remember everything you've done before, that may not be possible. In the book Action and Reaction, young spirit asked why he can't recall his previous existence. And he said that because you're not ready yet. He goes, spirits who rightly attend to their duties in their physical life do in fact peacefully recover their memory after leaving the dense body. They re-enter communion with the noble and worthy ties that wait for them in the higher life, so that they can continue their respective work of spiritual growth and sublimation. On the other, for those of us with troubled consciences, the death of the corporeal vehicle does not mean liberation. We may lose the physiological instrument, but remain chained to the invisible prison of our guilt. So, and guilt, my friend, is always a black cloud of darkness eclipsing our sight, regarding our moral failures. So therefore, you will not be able to remember all your past lives, even if you go back to the spirit world, until you are ready. So this is why you really want to be careful in this life, because our wrongs persist in so many ways. Not only must we come back and pay our debts, right? But even our capabilities are diminished in the spirit world if we do not improve ourselves. And what we're said over and over in spiritualist literature is the earth is the best place to really make dramatic changes in your character and personality. The spirit world's tougher. And that's why we're told over, if you have wrongs to pay, get them paid. Get them paid. Go through your experiences, take them to heart, learn, transform yourself, do it in the physical life. We're not here in this world to become geniuses like Einstein. We're here to transform our personality. That's why you'll have extremely intelligent spirits. You'll even have very high spirits will come and reincarnate as a very humble person, so they get to that experience, and they are going through something they need to learn. So you can't judge anybody, you see. So then what happens after he met these people is then after he was escorted to another room, and there were two high spirits. In B's view, they had white hair and white beards. And B, he was there for a reason. The spirit world desired that he understood how close the spirit world watches us on earth. Again, this is what Spiritism says. So let me read you what he wrote. One of the wise spirits asked me a question about an incident which happened to me when I was 5 or 6 years old, first grade at primary school. I felt uneasy about the answer because of about a fight I had with a classmate. The classmate punched me and went running away across the playground. The boy must have been, say, 30 meters away and running. When I threw a rock the size of a walnut at an elliptically high angle that hit the kid square on top of his head when it came down. When I didn't answer, one of the wise men said, the lesson to be learned right here is God the Father knows all your thoughts and intentions at all times. You are part of him and he is part of you. Just after that, I was told that I'd be showing my life review. When it started, it was like a holographic image that came up in front of me from out of the surroundings, and then I became completely immersed in the experience. connecting my soul as one with it. I was shown of times when I'd hurt people's feelings, but was completely unaware of it. I was literally in the other person's shoes, body, and felt what they went through. I also experienced it from the side profile as well to get the full experience. The experience was to teach me about empathy without judgment, to always put myself in the other person's shoes, to look through their eyes and emotions. Wow. Okay. This is other people have had this experience, right? You've read other NDEs. If you're into NDEs, you will know other people's had this where their life was shown them. And not only did they see every part of their life, they saw their thoughts and feelings and other people's thoughts and feelings. Spiritism explains what this is. Spiritism tells us that all our thoughts are tagged with our unique ID, that nothing we think, feel, or wherever is lost. It's all in that universal cloud, that universal database. So they can take anything about us, recreate it, and all the people around us, recreate exactly what went on. This is why Spiritism is so important for people to understand. It explains all this. And, when your mother or father tried to scare you when you're young, God's watching you all the time. You should have said to them, yeah, and they're watching you too. But, you're a smart little kid. But that's the truth. They are watching everybody. And it's not to punish you or be mean. It's to help guide you and to help you become a better person, a perfect spirit. That's why we're on earth, is to improve ourselves so we can become productive members of spirit society. We're just like kids in school, right? You see an elementary kid, they're not ready to work. They think they're working, they're not worth anything per hour. Even when I was in high school and I was working, I think I was a busboy. I was barely worth what I was paid. That's what we are, right, in the spirit world. We're barely worth, but we have potential, and we're here being trained on earth to learn that. That's why we're here. So then B also learned about some revelations. So as fantastic as B's journey was, he was gifted with even more. B writes that Jesus came to him. He could feel the power of Jesus. Then B described what Jesus wore: a white robe with a sash, a golden ribbon from the shoulder to his waist. B saw his bare feet the color of golden brown. I have read about that same description. Now, honestly, it's hard to know if it really was Jesus Christ, because many people say they saw Jesus, and it could have just been a higher spirit. You will see the spirit realm won't say, hey, I'm Jesus. They'll just let you think it, or they'll, I'm St. Peter, or I'm so-and-so. They'll let you think it because they want you to know how important that message is. So, just to give you that to that. But that description of him corresponds to images reported by Jiva O in his communication from higher spirits. They paint a picture of a powerful spirit who has compassion and love in every fiber of his body. They also tell of a simple dress with a sash and bare feet. I give him the benefit of the doubt there. Jesus presented B with another vision, a look at the future. This is what he was told. This is what he said. Jesus started telling me of things to come and what to look out for in my lifetime. I received a totally immersed vision from him, similar to the life review experience. Jesus went into detail about the new currency bartering system that the governments would impose on everyone on earth. He said stage 1 would be microchipping for personal security identification, will be used for healthcare and eventually for currency bartering. Stage 2, nanotechnology injection into the blood system. And stage 3, DNA reading. And he said, Jesus showed me the technologies will cause signs of cancerous lesions on people's skin. They look like small hematoma bleeds all over the body. The Lord will intervene soon after that, but no one will know when. I was shown what my future work careers would be. So this all happened to be in 1993. So the idea of planting a device in every person, it doesn't sound far-fetched today, does it? Nanotechnology and interpreting DNA are both growing by leaps and bounds. But if you had heard of that in the early 90s, we would have said, what? Nanotechnology? Nano what? So this is why, this is just like when G. Val's mother, talks about, devices or our Chico Xavier's mother talks about personal communication devices back in the 40s. You know, you had a telephone line. There's no such thing as, you know, maybe Dick Tracy type thing back then, but there's none of that. So this is where, you know, people, you know, you get to the truth of this stuff. So B wrote that everything he was told about his own career came true. And I believe him because I was told about details about my future trajectory that I dismissed out of hand about my future, and they all came true. So how else? So you know, so here's B had this vision, which is enough. But then what he was told all came true. So if you take B and me, we are two small little data points, inconsequential against the 7 billion people on the earth, I understand, who were told things were going to happen in the future, and they happened. And this is specificity. This isn't like, oh, you're going to have a nice house, right? Or you're going to have a good car, or, you know, if you're going to meet this wonderful woman or something like that, right? It's very general, right? No, very specific things. How can that happen without a higher power determining everything we are doing? And once you understand that we are here on this blueprint and we can't escape it, right? Is that there has to be the spirit world. There is this spirit world that's there. And if there is predestination, who is guiding it? Who is controlling it? It has to be this higher power, a higher power with the computational technology that makes, you know, that makes our most complex device look like a hand calculator. And so, and as Spiritism says, no one wants you to take what I'm saying on faith, right? No one says, oh, well, Brian says this, or the Spirit book says this, or the Bible says this, it must be true. No, they want you to go through your own experiences and learn and internalize and lay that foundation of, okay, now I understand. And all I'm here trying in this program is say, look, there's a couple data points I'm presenting to you, and I'm telling you why these things happen for you to think about. And you can find more about that in this book, The Spirit World Talks to Us. All about near-death experiences, and I go on a lot more about what the spirit world does, how it works, all sorts of interesting data points and knowledge about the spirit world. And I can't tell you enough that all this is exciting, and all of this, while exciting and revelatory, the more you absorb it and the more you learn, the more you accept and you adjust and you're calm and you're not stressed because things are happening for a reason. They're happening because we did something in the past life that we need to learn from this life, or we just need a new experience. Not, you know, karma is real, but then we also go through experiences because the spirit world says you need to be trained in all aspects, right? Because if you're going to use your mind to create, you need to have a broad base of knowledge and wisdom. And you need to be able to be calm in all circumstances. So this is what Spiritism does for you. It makes you look at your life. It allows you to look at your life from on top of a mountain and see that what you're looking here on earth isn't, you know, this horrible roller coaster of up and down. It's just, it's a learning experience, and things what we think are terrible. Look, we're only on this earth for a very short time period. We live in an immortal existence. Spiritism says we are immortal. We can't die. So you divide immortality by, let's say, 80 years. It comes to point almost zero, right? So our life on earth is short. So it's like sending your kid off to camp. They don't want to go to camp, but they got to learn certain things. They'll survive. Us too. We'll survive. We'll do better. So I just want to bless everybody who's been on this program tonight, because I hope that it helps people understand that there is so much out there. There's so much more that we can learn, and it's just a we are on this wonderful earth given to us by God so we can learn. It doesn't seem wonderful to us in many aspects and at many different times. And it's not meant to be a pleasurable, stress-free existence. It's meant to be a learning experience. It's not meant, in the vogue of today, we're not meant to have safe places. We are meant to have unsafe places where we have to learn, unfortunately. And that these are things we need to go through. So I want to God bless everyone. I want to thank everyone. I want to encourage everyone to go to my website, nwspiritism.com, read more about Spiritism. You can click on that picture of Allan Kardec, find all sorts of Spiritist books. I have my books where what I've done is, on the case for reincarnation or explore your destiny or the problem of solution. I take information from different Spiritist books and I try to compile them and show you what's all the different data, right? And the problem of the solution, it's like everything you're going through on earth, there's a reason in a past life where you're doing this. In my book, The 7 Tenets of Spiritism, I already talked about my journey in Spiritism. I talked about how I started to understand the signs and signals from our guardian angel, because that's the other thing Spiritism tells you. To slow down, meditate, start looking for those signs and signals. And the more you understand it, you're continually watched and guided. As long as you kind of keep an open mind, right? Open eyes. Let those who hear, hear. Those who have eyes, see. I understand now what he means. You can't just keep going 60 miles an hour trying to survive and make more money. You've got to stop and let and meditate and let the spirit world go into your heart and your mind and your emotions. Anyway, I want to bless everybody. I want to thank everybody for listening to me tonight. And I, again, come back next Sunday. And I saw a lot of people were here. Come back next Sunday and come to my program. 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, all the time zones in between, every Sunday night. God bless you. I'll put the end credits. I would like to thank everyone for listening to our program on Kardec Radio, and to point you in the direction to find more information about the spirit world around us. You can visit my blog at www.nwspiritism.com. Again, that is www.nw, as in Northwest, spiritism.com. And if you're ever in the Northwest, I certainly would welcome to have you come to our meeting on Bainbridge Island near Seattle in the state of Washington. Many blessings to all of you, and please continue to explore Spiritism and the spirit world around us. And Camille, thank you, and thank you for your great thoughts, and see you next week.